The lights of the orbital station shined bright against the darkness of space. Inside the Great Hall, thousands of people laughed and drank and celebrated. Humans and aliens stood together, raising glasses to 50 years of friendship. Ambassador Dren, a tall creature with gray skin and 4 eyes, smiled at everyone who passed him. His teeth were too sharp for a real smile. But humans had stopped noticing such things long ago. Director Buchanan stood in the corner of the hall. She did not drink. She did not smile. Her dark eyes moved across the room, watching every alien face. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones the way a sailor feels a coming storm. For 3 months, her intelligence teams had found strange signals, encrypted messages between Morthani ships, secret meetings that happened when humans were not invited. Small things, easy to ignore. The Earth Council had told her she was being paranoid. The Morthani were friends. They had been friends for 50 years. Hannah did not believe in friends who whispered in the dark. She left the celebration early and returned to her office deep inside the station. Her screens showed the same data she had studied for weeks. Morthani fleet movements that made no sense. Ships gathering at the edge of human space. Too many ships for a simple patrol. Her communicator buzzed. A young officer appeared on the screen. "Director, we intercepted another transmission. Same encryption. We cannot break it. But the volume of traffic has increased by 300% in the last 6 hours." Hannah felt cold. "Where is the traffic going?" "Everywhere, ma'am. Every Morthani ship in human space is receiving these messages." She stood up fast enough to knock her chair over. "Get me a line to Admiral Park." Now, she was too late. She was already too late. At exactly 300 hours Earth Standard Time, the lights went out, not just on the station. Everywhere, every orbital defense platform that humanity had built went dark in the same moment. The Morthane had given humans gifts over the years. Better power systems, stronger shields, faster computers. Humanity had installed these gifts into everything they built, grateful for the help. They did not know about the kill switches hidden inside. Park Junho was far from Earth when it happened. His research station floated near Neptune, small and forgotten, studying things that did not matter anymore. He was sleeping when the alarms pulled him from his dreams. He ran to the command center in his nightclothes. Officers shouted at each other. Screens flashed red. Someone was crying. "What is happening?" Junho demanded. A young lieutenant turned to him. Her face was white as paper. "Sir, Earth is under attack. The Morthani fleet. They are everywhere. They are bombing the cities." Junho pushed her aside and looked at the main screen. He saw Earth, blue and green and beautiful. He saw the Morthani ships surrounding it like wolves around a wounded deer. He saw bright flashes as bombs fell from orbit. He saw the coordinates for Soul Flash on the screen. Population, 34 million. Then the number began to fall. 30 million, 20 million, 10 million, 5 million, 1 million. 0. His wife was in Seoul. His 2 daughters were in Seoul. They had sent him a video that morning. His youngest had lost her first tooth. She had smiled so wide, showing the gap in her mouth, proud and silly and alive. "Sir." The lieutenant was speaking to him. "Sir, what do we do?" Junho could not answer. He watched the numbers fall across the screen. City after city. Mumbai, Lagos, New York, Sao Paulo. The numbers fell like rain, like tears, like the end of everything. 12 hours later, 4 billion humans were dead. High Arbiter Velos appeared on every screen in the galaxy. He stood tall and proud in his golden robes, his 4 eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Behind him, Morthani flags waved in artificial wind. "Citizens of the Galactic Concord," he said, "today we have saved our future." The human species was young, but they grew too fast. Their population doubled every century. Their technology advanced too quickly. Their military expanded without end. Our scientists calculated that within 300 years, humanity would dominate the galaxy. We could not allow this. He paused. His sharp teeth showed in something that was not a smile. Concord voted in secret. 12 species agreed. Humanity was a threat that had to be removed before it was too late. Today, that threat has ended. Earth burns. Their fleet is destroyed. Their people are dying. Soon, there will be no humans left to fear. He raised a glass of dark liquid. To a safer galaxy. Across the Concord, aliens raised their glasses too. They cheered. They celebrated. They had killed 4 billion people and they called it safety. On the research station near Neptune, Admiral Park Jun-ho watched the broadcast in silence. Around him, his officers wept and screamed and broke things. One man put his fist through a screen. Another fell to his knees and prayed to gods who did not answer. Junho, he did none of these things. He thought about his daughters. The elder one wanted to be a pilot. The younger one wanted to be a teacher. Simple dreams. Good dreams. Dreams that burned with soul. He thought about his wife. 23 years of marriage. She had laughed at his jokes even when they were not funny. She had held him when he was afraid. She had made him better than he was. He thought about 4 billion people. Mothers and fathers. Children and grandparents. Artists and farmers. Scientists and poets. All of them gone in 12 hours because aliens were afraid of what humanity might become. Slowly, Junho walked to his private terminal. He entered a code that only 7 people in the galaxy knew. A file opened on his screen. The words at the top read, Operation Long Night. For 40 years, some humans had suspected this day would come. They had built ships in secret. They had hidden weapons in the dark spaces between planets. They had prepared for betrayal while hoping it would never happen. Now, it had happened. Junho opened a communication channel. His voice was steady when he spoke. He did not sound like a man who had lost everything. He sounded like something worse. He sounded like a man who had nothing left to lose. This is Admiral Park Jun-ho, he said. Authorization code 7-7-3-9. Execute Operation Long Night. But she paused. His eyes were dry. His heart was cold. Awaken the fleet. Far away in the asteroid belt, in hollowed-out moons, in places no alien had ever thought to look, lights began to turn on. Engines that had never fired began to warm. Weapons that had never been used began to arm. 200 human warships woke from their long sleep. The Morthani thought they had destroyed humanity. They thought the war was over. They were wrong. The war had not ended. The war had just begun. 3 months passed since the sky caught fire. Earth was not dead. The aliens had bombed the surface until the oceans boiled in some places, until mountains fell and rivers turned to steam. But humanity had always been good at surviving. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that killed millions. They survived this too. 800 million humans still lived. They hid in underground cities built decades ago by governments who trusted no one. They gathered in deep caves and old military bunkers. They crawled out of the ruins like insects after a flood, burned and broken but breathing. Sergeant Choi Sun-woo walked through what remained of his hometown. The buildings were gone. The streets were craters. The sky was gray with ash that would not clear for years. But people were alive. They dug through rubble with their bare hands. They shared food that tasted like dust. They buried their dead and kept moving. Sun-woo had been a soldier for 15 years. He had trained for wars that he thought would never come. Now he understood why the old generals had insisted on preparing for the worst. The worst had come, and only the prepared had survived. He gathered survivors wherever he found them. Soldiers who had lost their units. Civilians who had lost their families. Children who had lost everyone. He gave them purpose. He gave them weapons. He gave them something to live for. Revenge. The aliens think we are finished, he told his growing army. They think we are too broken to fight. They are wrong. We are not broken. We are angry. And angry humans are the most dangerous thing in this galaxy. His soldiers believed him. They had nothing else to believe in. Far from Earth, in the cold darkness near the asteroid Ceres, Admiral Park Jun-ho looked upon the Shadow Fleet for the first time. 200 warships floated in perfect formation inside a hollow space carved from the asteroid's heart. They were beautiful and terrible, painted black like the void itself. Captain Yoon Minji met him at the docking bay. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a scar across her chin. Her uniform was crisp, despite the circumstances. Her salute was perfect. "Admiral," she said, "the fleet is ready. We have been ready for 20 years. Junho looked at the ships. Rail cannons that could punch through any shield. Antimatter torpedoes that could crack planets. Engines faster than anything the Concorde had ever seen. Weapons that humanity had developed in secret. Weapons they had never shared with their alien friends. "How many crew?" he asked. 60% capacity. Many of us lost family in the attack." Minji's voice did not shake, but her hands did. "We do not want comfort, Admiral. We want coordinates." Junho nodded slowly. "You will have them." Director Bikana arrived 3 days later on a small transport ship. She looked older than Junho remembered, though only months had passed. Her hair had turned gray at the temples. Her eyes had lost their warmth. She brought data with her. Thousands of files. Intelligence gathered over decades by agents who had suspected the truth. The Morthani did not act alone. She explained to the assembled officers. 3 other species joined them: the Veth, the Korlani, and the Dracon. They voted together in secret council. They planned this attack for 12 years. Lieutenant Kung Timan, a young weapons officer with angry eyes, slammed his fist on the table. 12 years they smiled at us while planning our murder. "Yes," Hannah said. 12 years. She pressed a button. A holographic map of the galaxy appeared, dotted with red markers. These are their worlds. 147 colonies, 32 major stations. For homeworlds. 12 billion aliens who celebrated when Earth burned. The room went silent. Officers stared at the map with hunger in their eyes. "We have targets," Junho said. "Now we need a plan." The planning took 2 weeks. Junho did not want simple revenge. Simple revenge was a ship attacking a colony and dying in glory. Simple revenge made good stories, but changed nothing. Junho wanted complete revenge. He wanted the species who killed humanity to understand what they had done. He wanted them to feel fear the way humans had felt fear. He wanted them to lose everything the way humans had lost everything. "We start with their forward bases," he explained. "We cut their supply lines. We destroy their early warning systems. Then we move inward. Colony by colony. Station by station. World by world." Captain Minji studied the battle plans. "This will take years." "Yes. And at the end, they will have nothing left." On Earth, the Morthani had begun their cleanup operation. Small ships landed in the ruins, searching for survivors to kill. They thought it would be easy. They thought humans were scattered and weak. Sergeant Sunwoo showed them otherwise. His soldiers attacked at night, using weapons pulled from buried armories. They struck fast and disappeared into the rubble. They killed alien patrols and took their equipment. They sent a message. Earth was not conquered. Earth was fighting back. The Morthani commander on Earth requested reinforcements. His superiors laughed at him. Reinforcements for a dead planet? The war was over. There was nothing left to fear. They were so certain of their victory. Back at Ceres, the fleet prepared to move. Gunho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Night, and watched his ships form up around him. 200 vessels. 40,000 crew. Every single one of them had lost someone in the attack. Every single one of them had a reason to fight. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. His face appeared on screens throughout the convoy. Officers stopped what they were doing. Engineers put down their tools. Soldiers looked up from their weapons. "They called us a threat," Junho said. His voice was calm. His eyes were not. "They said we grew too fast. They said we were too dangerous to live. They looked at humanity and saw something that scared them. So they tried to kill us all." He paused. Around him, officers stood at attention. Some had tears on their faces. Others had none left to cry. They were right to be afraid, but they made one mistake. They did not finish the job. His hands gripped the railing until his knuckles turned white. Now we will show them what humanity can do when we have nothing left to lose. Now we will teach the galaxy why they should have feared us more. The engines roared to life. 200 ships began to move, rising from the asteroid belt like ghosts from a grave. They had hidden for 40 years, waiting for a day everyone hoped would never come. That day had come. And now they flew toward war. The first Morthani patrol to see them was stationed at the edge of human space. 3 small ships watching for survivors who might try to flee. They detected the human fleet on their long-range sensors and could not believe what they saw. The senior officer sent a transmission to his commanders. His voice shook with fear. The humans. They have a fleet. They have. His transmission ended in static. Rail cannon rounds tore through his ship before he could finish speaking. The other 2 patrol ships died seconds later. Quick, clean. A message. The message was simple. We are coming. The galaxy was about to burn. Kethris Station was supposed to be the strongest Morthani base in the sector. 40,000 soldiers lived there. 200 defense cannons protected it. The commanders believed nothing could break their walls. The human fleet arrived at dawn. Admiral Masol watched from his bridge as his ships took position around the station. The Morthani were scrambling, trying to power their weapons, trying to launch their fighters. They were too slow. Humans had spent 40 years preparing for this moment. The Morthani had spent those same years celebrating their coming victory. All ships, Junho said. Fire. 200 warships unleashed everything at once. Rail cannons punched through shields like paper. Antimatter torpedoes turned metal into light. The station shook and cracked and broke apart. Bodies flew into space. Explosions bloomed like flowers of fire. 9 minutes. That was how long the battle lasted. 9 minutes to destroy what the Morthani had built over decades. 9 minutes to kill 40,000 aliens who had cheered when Earth burned. Lieutenant Kong Temin watched the wreckage drift past his viewport. He felt nothing. He had expected to feel joy or satisfaction. Instead, there was only emptiness and a hunger for more. It is not enough, he whispered. Captain Yun Minji heard him. She understood. It would never be enough, but they would keep trying anyway. News of Kethris reached the Galactic Concord within hours. The response was panic. Emergency sessions were called. Leaders who had celebrated humanity's death now stared at screens with fear in their eyes. High Arbiter Vela stood before the Concord Assembly, trying to calm the chaos. This changes nothing, he declared. A few human ships survived. That is all. We destroyed their homeworld. We killed billions of their kind. These survivors are desperate, nothing more. We will crush them. But doubt had already taken root. The humans were not supposed to have ships. The humans were not supposed to fight back. The humans were supposed to die quietly in the ruins of their planet. Ambassador Dren, who had smiled at human politicians for decades while planning their murder, demanded answers. Where did these ships come from? Our intelligence said humanity's military was destroyed. No one could answer him. The ships had appeared from nowhere. 200 vessels that no spy had ever seen. 200 weapons of war that no sensor had ever detected. It was impossible. And yet it was happening. War Chief Gorath took command of the Morthani response. He was old and experienced, a veteran of 3 wars against other species. He gathered 500 ships, the largest fleet the hegemony had assembled in a century. He would find the humans and end them properly this time. They hide in the darkness like cowards, he told his officers. We will drag them into the light and show them what true power looks like. He found the human fleet near the Varus Nebula, a cloud of gas and dust that stretched across 3 star systems. His sensors showed 200 human ships waiting in formation. He had 500. The numbers favored him by more than 2 to 1. Goroth smiled. All ships, advance. Destroy them all. His fleet moved forward in perfect order, weapons charged, shields raised. They were confident. They were ready. They did not understand what they were flying into. The nebula disrupted sensors. Goreth knew this. What he did not know was that human ships were built for this exact environment. Their sensors worked where Morthani sensors failed. Their weapons fired true where Morthani weapons went wild. The humans had chosen this battlefield. Every advantage belonged to them. Admiral Junho watched the enemy fleet enter his trap. Wait, he told his ships. Wait until they are deep inside. Wait until they cannot retreat. The Morthani pushed deeper into the nebula. Their formations spread thin as they searched for targets they could not properly see. They fired at shadows. They chased ghosts on their broken sensors. Now, Junho said. The human fleet attacked from every direction at once. Ships appeared out of the gas clouds like monsters from nightmares. Rail cannon rounds tore through holes. Torpedoes exploded against shields. The nebula lit up with fire and death. Goreth watched his fleet die around him. 300 ships gone in the first hour. Captains screaming for orders on channels that went silent one by one. He had never seen anything like this. No one had ever seen anything like this. Retreat. He finally ordered, all ships, retreat. But retreating through a nebula was harder than entering it. Human ships hunted them through the clouds. More Morthani died trying to escape than had died in the initial attack. By the time Goreth reached clear space, he had 80 ships left. 80 out of 500. He fled back to Morthani's space, broken and terrified. His defeat was the worst in hegemony history, and the humans had not lost a single vessel. Captain Minji led her squadron out of the nebula. Her ship, the Iron Resolve, had performed perfectly. Her crew had fought like demons. She should have been proud. Instead, she felt sick. During the battle, she had intercepted a Morthani refugee convoy, civilian ships fleeing the combat zone. Her officers had hesitated when they saw the convoy. These were not soldiers. These were families running from war. What are your orders, Captain? Her weapons officer had asked. Minji had thought about Seoul. She had thought about Mumbai and Lagos and São Paulo. She had thought about 4 billion humans who had begged for mercy and received none. Destroy them, she had said. The convoy burned. Children and parents and grandparents who had done nothing wrong except belong to the wrong species. Minji told herself it was justice. She told herself the Morthani had done worse. She told herself many things in the hours that followed. None of them helped her. Sleep. Admiral Junho broadcast a message to the galaxy after the battle. His face appeared on screens across 100 worlds. Aliens watched in their homes, in their offices, in their ships. They watched, and they were afraid. You thought you could murder us quietly, Junho said. His voice was ice. You thought no one would answer for our dead. You were wrong. Every species that raised arms against Earth, hear me now. Your worlds will learn what we learned. Your people will know what we know. You wanted us to feel fear. Now it is your turn. On the Morthani homeworld, citizens gathered in the streets and looked up at their sky. They had lived their whole lives without fear of invasion. Their military was the strongest in the sector. No enemy had ever reached their world, but now they saw lights in the sky. Human ships appearing one by one, taking position around their planet. The orbital defense grid, the finest technology the hegemony had ever built, activated automatically. It lasted 11 minutes. When the human fleet finished with the defense grid, Admiral Junho opened a channel to the planet below. 12 billion Morthani waited to hear what he would say. Many hoped for negotiation. Many hoped for mercy. Junho said nothing. He simply gave the order to begin, and the sky began to fall. 6 months of war had changed the galaxy forever. The 4 species that attacked Earth were dying. Their colonies burned. Their fleets were gone. Their people fled from world to world, always running, never escaping. The human war machine followed them like death itself, patient and unstoppable. Sergeant Choi Sun-woo had left Earth behind. Now he led ground forces onto alien worlds, walking through their cities the way they had walked through human cities, without mercy. Without hesitation, he stood in the ruins of a Morthani colony, watching his soldiers clear buildings and gather prisoners. The aliens looked at him with terror in their four eyes. They did not understand. They had been told humans were weak, humans were defeated, humans were nothing to fear. Now they understood differently. "Sir," one of his soldiers said, "we found civilians hiding in the basement. Women and children. What do we do with them?" Sun Wu thought about his sister. She had hidden in a basement too, in Seoul, when the bombs fell. The basement had not saved her. Nothing had saved her. "Process them with the others," he said. His soldiers did not question the order. They had all lost someone. They all understood before leaving the ruins. Sun Wu took a can of paint and wrote something on the largest wall still standing. A Korean word that meant remember. He wrote this word on every world they conquered. He wanted the aliens to see it. He wanted them to know why this was happening. Captain Yoon Minji led a boarding action against a Morthani transport ship. Her target was aboard Ambassador Drin, the alien who had pretended to be humanity's friend for 50 years. While planning their extinction, the fighting was short and violent. Morthani guards fell quickly to human weapons. Mingi and her team pushed through the ship until they found the ambassador's quarters. Dren was hiding under his bed. He crawled out when they dragged him, shaking and weeping, his gray skin pale with fear. "Please," he begged. "I was only following orders. I had no choice. The High Arbiter commanded the attack. I was only a diplomat." Lieutenant Taman stepped forward. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes burned with something dark and terrible. "You smiled at our leaders while planning our death," he said. "You ate at our tables. You've played with our children. You called yourself our friend. I had no choice." Dren screamed. Taman grabbed the ambassador and forced him into a chair. He strapped Dren down and placed a screen in front of his face. "What are you doing?" Dren whimpered. "You watched our world burn with a smile," Taman said. "Now you will watch your own." He pressed a button. The screen lit up with footage from the bombardment of Morthani colonies. Cities burning, bodies in the streets, children crying for parents who would never come. Hour after hour of death played before Dren's eyes, and he could not look away. Taman left him there. He would leave the ambassador alive for now. Living was a worse punishment than dying. Back on the flagship, Captain Minji requested a private meeting with Admiral Junho. She found him in his quarters, staring at a photograph. His wife, his daughters, the family he had lost. "Admiral," she said, "I need to speak with you." Put the photograph down and looked at her. His face was tired. He had not slept properly in months. "Speak." "We have destroyed 47 colonies. We have killed 2 billion aliens. The Morthani homeworld is a graveyard." She paused, gathering her courage. "When does it end?" Junho was quiet for a long moment. "You think I have gone too far?" he said. It was not a question. "I think we are becoming what we hated." Junho reached into his desk and pulled out another photograph. He handed it to Minji. It showed 2 little girls, maybe 6 and 8 years old, laughing at the camera. They had their father's eyes. "My daughters," he said. Jiwon and Yoonji. Jiwon wanted to be a pilot. Yoonji wanted to be a teacher. They were good girls. Kind girls. They never hurt anyone. Her hands began to shake. They were in Seoul when the bombs fell. I found what was left of our home 3 weeks ago. There was nothing left. Not even bones. Junho took the photograph back. Do you have more questions, Captain? Minji did not. She left his quarters without another word. The other species of the Galactic Concord watched the war with growing terror. The Veth, the Korlani, and the Dracon were being destroyed alongside the Morthani. But what about the rest? What about the species who had not voted for the attack? What about those who had simply stayed quiet while humanity died? One by one, they began to surrender. Diplomats flew to human space under flags of peace, offering anything the humans wanted: reparations, territory, weapons, hostages, anything, Admiral. Accepted their surrenders. He was not interested in them. They were cowards, not enemies. He let them go back to their worlds with a simple warning: stay out of the way. The 4 betrayer species now stood alone. High Arbiter Velos made one final attempt at peace. He broadcast a message to the human fleet as they surrounded his homeworld. Admiral Junho, he said, I am offering complete surrender. We will dismantle our military. We will pay any price you name. We will give you anything you want. Please, stop this madness. Junho listened to the message on his bridge. His officers watched him, waiting for his response. Open a channel, he said. Velos appeared on the main screen. He looked old and afraid. The pride that had filled his voice when he announced humanity's destruction was gone. Admiral Velos said, Thank you for speaking with me. We can find peace. We can end this. I have one question, Junho said. Anything. When 4 billion humans begged for mercy, did you stop? Velos's mouth opened, but no words came out. He knew the answer. Everyone knew the answer. That is what I thought, Junho said. He cut the channel. Director Bikana contacted him that night using an encrypted line. She looked as tired as he felt. Perhaps more. I supported this mission, she said. I helped build the fleet. I gave you the targets. I believed in justice. She paused. But this is not justice anymore, Junho. This is genocide. Yes, he said simply. Where does it end? Junho looked out the viewport at the Morthani homeworld. 12 billion aliens waited below. They had signed their death warrant when their leaders voted to destroy Earth. Now the bill had come due. It ends when they understand, he said. It ends when the galaxy never forgets what they did. It ends when no species ever dares to threaten humanity again. And how many have to die for that lesson? However many it takes. The bombardment of the Morthani homeworld began at dawn. Their time. The first kinetic strikes hit their capital city, the same city where the vote to kill humanity had taken place. Lieutenant Taman fired the first shot personally. He thought about his mother, who had died in the first wave. He thought about his friends, his neighbors, his entire life that had burned in one night. The round fell from orbit like the finger of an angry god. It struck the Senate building where the vote had happened. The explosion was visible from space. Temin watched the fire spread across the city. He waited to feel better. He did not. 1 year after the betrayal, the war was over. It ended not because humanity chose to stop, but because there was nothing left to destroy. The 4 species that had attacked Earth were gone. Their homeworlds were dead rocks, burning and empty. Their colonies were ruins. Their people were scattered refugees, hiding in the dark corners of space where human ships might never find them. 60 billion aliens had died. It was a number too large to understand. 60 billion lives ended because their leaders made a choice. 60 billion families. Destroyed because 12 species had looked at humanity and felt afraid. Admiral. Park Junho stood on the bridge of the eternal night, watching the debris field that had once been the Morthani homeworld. Chunks of metal and stone drifted past his viewport, glowing with the heat of recent destruction. Somewhere in that wreckage were the remains of the Senate building, the place where they had voted to kill Earth. Captain Yoon Minji stood beside him. Neither of them spoke for a long time. "We won," she finally said. Double quotes. Yes. It does not feel like victory.
Oh.
Junho agreed. It does not. It expected to feel something when it was over. Relief, perhaps. Satisfaction. Justice. Instead, there was only emptiness. The rage that had sustained him for a year was gone, burned away like fuel from a rocket. What remained was a tired old man who had outlived everyone he loved. His wife was still dead. His daughters were still dead. 4 billion humans were still dead. Killing 60 billion aliens had not changed any of that. It had only added more ghosts to a galaxy already full of them. On Earth, Sergeant Choi Sun-woo returned home with his soldiers. Their transport ships landed in the ruins of what had once been the Korean peninsula. The sky was still gray with ash. The ground was still poisoned from the bombardment. But people were there waiting for them. Survivors who had spent a year hiding underground, merging slowly to rebuild. Sun-woo walked through the remains of his hometown. There was nothing left that he recognized. The streets where he had played as a child were craters. The school where he had learned to read was dust. His parents' house was a hole in the ground. But children ran past him, laughing and shouting, playing games among the ruins. They had been born in underground bunkers, these children. They had never seen the sun until recently. They did not know what the sky had looked like before the bombs fell. To them, this gray and broken world was simply the world. A little girl stopped in front of Sun-woo. She looked up at him with curious eyes. "Are you a soldier?" she asked. "Yes." "Did you fight the bad aliens?" Sun-woo thought about the things he had done, the cities he had burned, the prisoners he had processed, the word he had painted on walls across a dozen worlds. Yes, he said. "I fought them. Did we win?" He looked at the ruins around him. He looked at the children playing in the rubble. He looked at the gray sky that might not clear for decades. "We survived," he said. "That is enough." Captain Temin, who had been Lieutenant Temin a year ago, visited the memorial being built in rebuilt Seoul. The memorial was a wall of light, stretching half a kilometer long, covered with names. The names of everyone who had died in the attack. 4 billion names. Too many to read in a lifetime, Tem searched for his mother. He found her near the middle of the wall, her name glowing softly among millions of others. He stood before it for a long time, not moving, not speaking. He had killed thousands of aliens. He had made Ambassador Dren watch his world burn. He had fired the first shot in the bombardment of Morthen Prime. He had done terrible things in the name of revenge. And now, standing before his mother's name, he finally understood that none of it had brought her back. He knelt on the cold ground and wept. It was the first time he had cried since the attack. He had been too angry to cry before, too focused on killing. Now, the killing was done. There was nothing left but grief. Director Buchanan spent her final months compiling a complete history of everything that had happened. Every death on both sides. Every battle. Every decision. She recorded it all in perfect detail, then made copies and sent them to every human settlement that remained. "So they never forget," she wrote in the introduction. "So future generations know why we fought. So they understand what we became in order to survive. And so they know the cost of that survival." She died 3 months after finishing the archive. The doctors said it was her heart, worn out by stress and age. But Junho suspected the truth was simpler. She had seen what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. She had helped make it happen. And carrying that weight had simply become too heavy. The surviving alien species sent delegations to Earth, requesting peace. They came with gifts and apologies and promises of friendship. They smiled at human officials the way Ambassador Dren had once smiled. Other smiles were tight with fear. Humanity accepted their peace. They signed treaties and established trade routes and rebuilt diplomatic relations. But it was different now. There were no more alliances. There was no more trust. Human ships patrolled the borders constantly, watching for any sign of threat. Never again, humanity had promised itself. Never again would they be caught unaware. Never again would they believe in alien friendship. They would trade with the galaxy. They would talk with the galaxy. But they would never again trust the galaxy. Admiral Junho, retired to a small house on the eastern coast of Korea. The ocean there was still recovering, its waters slowly clearing after years of pollution. Fish were coming back. Birds were returning. Life was stubborn that way. He planted a garden behind his house. Tomatoes and peppers and beans. Simple things. Growing things. He spent his mornings tending the plants and his afternoons watching the ships pass overhead. Human ships. Always human ships. Patrolling the skies that aliens had once filled with death. Sometimes he received messages from old crew members. Minji had returned to active duty, commanding a patrol squadron. Teeman had left the military and become a teacher working with children in the rebuilt cities. Sunwoo had gone back to farming, working the same land his grandfather had worked generations ago. They had all survived. They had all won, and they all carried scars that would never heal. One evening, Junho sat on his porch and watched the sunset. The sky turned orange and red and purple, beautiful in a way that Earth had almost forgotten. Somewhere out there, aliens told stories about humanity. Stories of what happened when you tried to kill them. Stories that ended with the same warning repeated across 100 worlds. Never provoke them. Never threaten them. Remember what they did when they had nothing left to lose? Junho thought about his wife. He thought about his daughters. He thought about the life he had lived and the things he had done. He had won. He had avenged 4 billion dead. He had made the galaxy afraid of humanity forever. He had accomplished everything he set out to do. He did not feel victorious. He just felt old. And somewhere, in the quiet of his garden, with the tomatoes growing and the birds singing and the ships passing overhead, Admiral Park Junho finally allowed himself to rest, not because the guilt was gone, or the grief, or the memory of what he had become, but because he was tired, and because even revenge in the end gets tired too. The war was over. Humanity had survived, and the galaxy would never forget the price of betrayal.